when you said that, it gave me like this visual of like that Venn diagram of, okay, what are my skill sets and what makes the biggest impact? And anything that lines in that center is what I do. And then you're delegating everything else that's kind of out here. My question is, as a leader, what I'm always looking at is how do I determine what's making the biggest impact?
In today's episode, Courtney and I sit down with Aissa Triassi, and she gets super transparent, walks us through what she's learned from corporate America, starting her insurance agency ownership in the middle of a pandemic, losing her mother a few months after the pandemic and starting her business, and what she learned in that process from a leadership management, making sure she's focusing on those things that truly move the needle in the business. And even though she wasn't in the business a lot, she still had record-breaking years, built an amazing team, amazing culture, and also shares just how she went about doing that and the human element of the business that sometimes we forget about. So with that being said, let's start the show. Hey, welcome to the Insurance Buzz. We are your host, Michael and Courtney Weaver. We have a special guest today, Aissa Triassi. Ice, how are you today?
I am pumped this morning. I already finished my coffee, so I'm ready to go.
I love it. And I love that you go by Ice because it's like Ice, Ice, baby. It's easy to remember.
There you go. I mean, that is my theme song, so when you hear it playing, I'm pretty sure I'm around the corner.
Oh, man, I got to figure out how I can get that track embedded underneath this podcast now, so it's not infringing on any copyright. Oh, my gosh. We have already had such a juicy conversation before we hit record, so I'm super pumped to jump into this. But you have an interesting background on how you came into the insurance field. So I would love for you to share that with our listeners on how you landed in insurance.
Yeah, so I'll do a quick story of it. After college, I actually went to Arizona State and played soccer there. I looked into insurance, unfortunately, got a bad taste in my mouth about it. The biggest area that fell in my lap was the unfortunate embezzlement situation with this agent that got shut down. So it kind of left a bad taste. Decided I wanted to own my own business, didn't know what that meant yet. And so I actually went into enterprise rent-a-car for about 2 years, learned how to, bleed the green machine there, learn how to run a business. Yeah, it was great. My best friends come from enterprise. So, you really do learn a lot. Most people don't know you have to have a degree to work there. Uh-huh. And so it was a fun environment. You learned a lot. You're with your best friends. I loved it. But unfortunately, once I started to climb up the ladder into corporate, again, there was a weird situation with, and you'll hear in my next story, of a boys club type of vibe. And there was a big group of us that left. We left and went to Solar City, which was a sister company of Tesla. I followed a fellow enterprise colleague there. She was the one that kind of dragged me over there. And it was the best decision I made. Got to dive into, which was a little scary at the time, a new industry. But ended up starting in a sales position there, worked my way up. And once Tesla acquired Solar City, I got into more of a business coach type of role for all of LA and Hawaii. But similar story, I started to climb up the ladder. Tesla's a very cool company to work for, but very volatile. And so when I saw that they were kind of controlling my lifestyle with being, stepping down into a role with no opportunity to grow up, I decided to remove myself. And then oddly enough, my little brother was purchasing a home. And so our real estate agent referred a fellow insurance agent who is now one of my role models, Rob Dow. And my dad made a plug and said, you know what, my daughter is thinking of leaving Southern California, going up to San Francisco to work for a tech company. She really, is great at business, but I think this would be a good fit. Would you mind sitting down with her? So I sat down with Rob, and the little charmer sold me on the idea of, running your own business and being able to use farmers as a vehicle to do so. And so I decided to place all bets on myself and being able to learn a lot from Rob and having farmers give me that opportunity to open up my own business. I decided to do that in the middle of a pandemic. And so that's kind of, how I got into the insurance world.
Open up your insurance agency in the middle of a pandemic in the state of California.
Yeah, it was fun. I'll leave it at that. It was fun.
I did not know. Okay, so I am like fist pumping over here because I did not know. I am a fellow first job out of
URAC?
college was yes, MT
All
baby, like
right.
the management
Yes.
training program. Very similar story too, and it's when you
Interesting.
climb the ladder, it becomes disheartening when you see kind of this system and you're like, man, this is broken. It's not based on performance because I'm like over here working my butt off. So I love that kind of throughout seeing these broken systems, you've created this business and this entrepreneurial spirit of like, I'm going to do my own thing, and you're carrying that in insurance. So just for my own like personal satisfaction, what are some things that you learned in enterprise that you are carrying like through your life, especially in your insurance business?
That's honestly, it's a lot. So although I had a short career there, I actually tell everybody that you should recruit employees from enterprise because this is a little muddy, but after I left enterprise, would still get settlement checks from people suing enterprise because of just the problems. Again, and when I say boys club, I don't actually mean this boys thing. I mean like there's a pack. There's a pack there, and it's very clear that there's a circle of people. And I think that's pretty common in corporate America, unfortunately. I think a lot of it is now we're calling light to it, which is why I, for the first time last year, didn't receive a check from enterprise for a settlement. But there's a lot of things. So with that being said, I learned a lot. I mean, they're from washing cars in a pencil skirt. It just teaches you that the ins and outs of running a business. It's sad to see how many business owners don't understand how to read a P&L sheet. And so they don't know which numbers to focus on. So from reading a P&L sheet to understanding how to time manage, I mean, enterprise, you're kind of spinning 4 or 5 plates at a time, especially when you step into a management position. You now are not only spinning these plates, but now you really have to worry about your costs, where I think sometimes other management positions in other companies, they don't teach you about, you live out your role of a manager, but you make decisions without understanding the consequences from them. So enterprise, they really do teach you, like, if you do this is what happens to your direct reflection of your pay. And so I really enjoyed that because straight out of college, I thought that was an important value to understand, that if I wanted to own a business one day, that these are the things I have to really think about. And I think that's fortunately, now almost being 3 years into my own agency, I think that I owe it to enterprise being able to focus on those areas, because the first 3 years are really tough on your business when you're opening it up. Some would say even 3 to 5 years. But I think that because I've been able to prioritize and understand which numbers to focus on, aside from hiring the right people, I think that's why I'm still standing, to be honest, because there is a lot of things that we'll probably get into that really were working against me, and I probably shouldn't be here right now.
I want to get into those.
I was going to say, we can do that now. You guys are controlling the show here. So we'll get a little emotional here. I'll try to keep it together. So during the pandemic, my mom unfortunately passed away. And so she passed away in September of 2020. I'm sorry, 21. I can't even keep it straight. So my parents, I said, they have their own business. So unfortunately, because of that, my dad and my mom ran this business together. She did all of the accounts payables, receivables, the HR, all the boring stuff, really. And my dad was a front man. He's the talker. He's really good with people. He had most of the experience in the industry too. My mom just kind of facilitated everything else. So although obviously it was a tragic loss, when you run your own business, sometimes that doesn't matter. You have to keep moving forward. And so I had to step into my mom's shoes to help my dad keep the business afloat. And so what that meant to my business is that it was put on the back burner. I would say it went from about the first 5 months, my business only had 10% of my time. Luckily, I had somebody else in the office to help me, but it kind of fell back. The priority was really, really low. I mean, my main priority was to help my dad get organized. He didn't know what to do. He had no idea. And so as, I helped him come up to the digital world with some things and maybe hire some of the right people, I was able to then prioritize less of my time, but still the majority of my time was spent over there. So it went from 90% of my time there to now it was around 60% of my time there. And now, thankfully, in this new year, I can say that only 10% of my time, because I was able to build up in the last year a team where he can start building up, and I don't need to be there involved in the day-to-day routine. With that, it was hard to manage both businesses, especially with this one not even being a priority. I was still able to, not to toot my own horn, but it was a proud moment for me this year, being able to go, okay, I don't have to spend my time there all the time. I'm only just doing his, the things you get nervous to hire out, which is your payroll and managing your books. So I do that, that's only maybe an hour of my week every week. But it was a breath of fresh air to start this year off and say, I don't have to go, cater to someone else's business. I can focus on mine. And even throughout this year, I was able to hire another person at my office, because there were days and moments of, working every weekend to try to, because during the week I'm at his office, just grinding it out like a lot of us do still today, despite a situation like that. But honestly, it was scary. There was moments where I was like, I don't know if I can do this much longer. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm going to survive, because, again, going back to finances, it's difficult your first 3 years of running your own business. If you don't grind, then the money's not going to be there. So I am very excited for this year, because now I'm in a position where I can really focus on my business and really kind of live out to hopefully my full potential. So I didn't mean to get all sensitive and emotional there, but I think I don't tend to share those things, but I think it's very important if we're going to be kind of raw. And I appreciate you guys doing this with the podcast. Maybe that's going to touch somebody where, if they're going through a difficult time, there is light. You just got to keep your head down and keep moving. Find some motivation. Surround yourself with some people that are really going to be a support system. And then that's really what helped me too, is I had a great support system with my husband, some best friends, and some family members.
Well, thank you for being raw and real and transparent, and even with, so an unfortunate event happened. You obviously had to prioritize huge loss. You had to prioritize what was most important to you. Yet your business, even though it went on the back, I don't even want to say back burner, you're just going to dedicate as much time to it, it still thrived. And so I would love to know what you learned during this time period to help you, because you have to be an incredible leader and manager to be able to do what you did. And so what did you learn through this process that you're taking into 2023 with you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one thing is prioritizing. So although, maybe the company didn't fall to the back burner, it was just less time, but the time that I did spend are things that are really going to really make an impact in the business, right? So that answering emails and all this, those really didn't get answered all the time, but I would find which ones were the ones that are urgent, because there's so many emails we get. I mean, we're all guilty of it. I have now a separate email just for spam email, to be honest, because it's like, if it's in that one, I don't read it. It gets lost. So I tried to focus on things that were really going to make an impact to the business, and really focus on my people. Trying to make sure I can keep them happy, doing what I need to do to motivate them, because I relied on them so much. I don't know if that answers your question entirely, but
it does. So I want to follow it up with something. How are you going to keep, so you now know, like, okay, your job is to really focus, lead your team, and prioritize the needle movers in your business. So I want to ask this question because we were just having this conversation. So how do you keep yourself from going back into the role of doing the monotonous tasks that don't move the needle?
Good question. I think that answer is like, take one day at a time, to be honest. Because I think what I find is, especially in today's world, we get overwhelmed more easily than we did beforehand. And I think it's because there's so much more coming at us, mostly because a lot of us are at home more. And so I just try to focus on one day at a time. And I don't know if you would call this like just being organized or like a control freak, but I write down everything like in an agenda. I have a to-do list. I put it on my calendar. If it's not my calendar, I don't do it. And so I just write down every day, like the day before I plan my day. Every night I'll write down because this helps with my sleep too, to be honest. If I don't write things down, I can't sleep. I have the worst sleep ever. My brain just keeps going because I have calmness and quietness that my brain just goes. And so I have to literally write down what are my main focuses for tomorrow, what's actually going to make an impact in the business. And then everything else is just kind of noise. Or I just try to hand that off to another team member because it's still important, but it's not making a big enough impact with my time. So I have to delegate what I'm really good at and make that my priority, and things that maybe I'm not great at, but still have an impact in the business, pass that off. So I feel like I had to learn how to let go a little bit and really just delegate things that may not be either one, super important to me, or two, doesn't make a big enough impact. I think that's what I would chalk it up to.
I love that because when you said that, it gave me like this visual of like that Venn diagram of, okay, what are my skill sets and what makes the biggest impact? And anything that lines in that center is what I do. And then you're delegating everything else that's kind of out here. My question is, as a leader, what I'm always looking at is how do I determine what's making the biggest impact? So I would ask you that question.
I think that goes back to like what you're good at, right? So for example, like billing questions, like customer service is so important in insurance, right? When a claim happens, that's so important because that's why they pay you. They pay for that experience to stay with you because people remember how you make them feel. So when it comes to billing, questions like that are, to me, they're important to the customer, but to me, like answering a billing question doesn't do anything for me and a quick return from me. That I'm not like great at answering those questions because I don't spend my day looking through billing. So if I don't have a lot of practice and I don't feel like I have mastery of something, then I would feel like it's going to leave a bad impression on the customer if I go, you know what, I don't know that answer. And so to me, I selfishly don't like saying that because I feel like I lose credibility. So if I'm going to lose credibility or I don't think that I'm a master of something, then I hand it off to a team member that does have mastery in it. For example, one of the ladies in my office, Lily, she's really good. She had 20 years of experience in customer service at a prior company before I was able to get her on my team. And she's really good at pitching anything that sounds negative. She makes you have a smile on your face right after it, right? I don't necessarily have that skill set. And so things that might have to do with those feelings, I'm not great at it. So I'll hand that off to somebody on my team that really is good at executing that.
That's great.
Oh, that's so good because that's just identifying and really going. And I think it takes a lot as a leader to not want to take everything and go, hey, I'm not great at this. I mean, that says a lot because you have to put like your ego to the side and be like, I'm not good at everything. And who is? So
the only reason why I was able to do that was because of my situation. Because I was so stressed out. I was like a rock because I'm not one that likes to share either. And I think I give credit to like going through like grief class and all that. But I started noticing that I was becoming very angry and very stressed out. And so, you know what? I said, I got to let some of these things go because although I want to, I think a lot of us can probably relate to this. You think you can do it better. And so that's why you don't really like handing things off. So what I realized is like, let's test this out. Let me give them this bone here. Let's see how they do. Oh, they did great with that. Aissa, why are you worrying about this? They can do a great job, or they probably handled it better than you could. So I think at first it's easier said than done, but you give them little bones to test out to see if that's something that they can handle. And you'll be surprised that your team can handle them. You just handle it. You just have to give them that opportunity. Or you find out that team member is not great at that. So maybe hand it over to another team member. So I think that if you let go a little bit and you do these little test runs, you'll be surprised how much you don't need to carry. I think a lot of times we fall into, we let the business run us instead of us running the business. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the biggest switch for me, being able to experience that with trying to really manage both of these businesses.
No, I love that. And And I wanted to ask you that question just because that's something that, like, transparently, that's a struggle of mine, because I don't want to say a busybody, but like, it is a different role that you learn as a leader and CEO. All right, like the tasks are just different, and so I love that you have the day by day and just the 3 tasks, or however many tasks you have that day, but my number is always 3. Like, okay, these are the income producing activities I need to do today to move the needle as a CEO and leader, not in the day-to-day monotonous task. And so I appreciate you sharing that, because that's been a struggle of mine that I've had to learn over the last few years. Just like, I don't always have to be in the day-to-day. Like, it's all right to be the leader and CEO making the moves that you need to make to grow your business.
Yeah, and her talking about sleep, I mean, it sounded just like Michael, because he's the exact same way. I sleep like a baby. Like, if there was a competition, I would win.
Here, 30 seconds on the pillow, and she's like,
I'm out.
Oh yeah, I'm jealous. I'm so, my husband's the same way. I'll like talk and say something. I'm like, he's already asleep. We just got in bed.
There's got to be one of us. If there's somebody that stays up all night, one of us has to get good sleep. It's for the family.
True.
That's what we're doing.
I appreciate the sacrifice. I get it. Now I understand.
All right, so I want to visit corporate America. Because you were in corporate for a while. Okay, so I would love to know what's one thing you learned that you're like, bam, this has helped me as an entrepreneur, and what's one thing you also learned that you're like, this is terrible for culture. I am not doing this.
Oh, such a great question. Okay, so I'll start with the one thing that I learned is to take care of your people. Because, and then when I say people, I mean the people, your coworkers, the people that are maybe quote unquote below you or that you manage. You take care of those people, because I think that sometimes when you move up through corporate America, you start to get these circles of the higher ups, and then a lot of times what I notice is people forget about the people that are being managed, and that was a consistent, I would say, feeling that I got once I climbed up the ladder at both companies, is that when you get forgotten or you're not important enough anymore, it makes the rest of your team, it kind of bleeds down. So the way you're feeling because of the way you're being treated once you come up, you don't notice it, but it bleeds down. And so that's why I'm always saying, like, be gracious, with your people, because as you move up, I mean, they're taking a lot of what you don't do anymore into their weight. And I think sometimes we forget that, and we get so focused on then being involved with the corporate America and being so PC that you get caught up in the things that don't really influence the business. I would say the one thing that I don't know. The second question is a little bit difficult because it's kind of an answer with the first answer. I don't know. That one's tough for me because I think that the first question kind of is answered both ways with that answer, because it's a little bit of like, I guess the way you would say is thinking that PC is important, because it is to a certain extent, but I think that being honest and transparent with your employees are just as equally as important. So I don't know. I'm having a tough time answering that question.
No.
I think that you did a fantastic job of answering that question. The thing that keeps running in my mind is that crap runs downhill, and that's good in both ways. So if something great is happening, that seeps down to every person in the organization, just like if something toxic is happening. But when you said take care of your people, there's so many things that you can do. When you say that, what exactly do you mean, or how do you take care of your people?
So I think it varies with every person. I think that sometimes you get caught up in this understanding that you got to understand what motivates your people, what makes them happy, and everyone's different. You ask me, I mean, I'm money motivated. I'm a hustler. Like, I will do what I need to do. Where I have some team members that just want a day off to go spend with I like that too, but I can't have both worlds, right? You just got to understand how to motivate your people and that varies through every person, every age group, every ethnicity. I mean, it varies. So you got to know your people. I like to make sure that when I'm interviewing people, I ask them, what motivates you? What are your 3-5 year goals? Because I want to get an idea of what's important to that person. So you just got to really get to know your people in order to motivate them the right way.
So how do you set up, and I love that because I think that's incredibly important to make somebody feel seen and heard. How are you setting that up throughout like your day or your week or even like, how are you checking in with your people?
Good question. So when you're a brand new employee, I mean, it's a little bit more intimate. We have weekly check-ins just to see, a gauge of anything that you're having trouble with, whether that's personal or, professional. Sometimes I think that we get caught up on like, oh, this person is always late. What's going on? And then we're quick to just like, here's a consequence instead of going like, hey, what's going on? Asking that simple question reveals a lot of information. Then you become more understanding. And I think sometimes we forget that human element, that no one's perfect. People are having a lot of very difficult time these last 2 years. And so we're quick to judge. And I think I was guilty of that too. Unfortunately, I had to go through a really hard time to really go, Aissa, you can't be so quick to judge or assume. And so what I've learned is not to be quick to make an assumption about a scenario or come up with my own reasoning of why, instead of just ask a question. And you'll be surprised with the responses you get. So with a new employee, it's a little bit more intimate, but with my little bit more tenured employee, we set up I would say within your first year, we have every quarter we have a touch point because I have a list of their goals, of their 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year goals. And so we'll come back to them. I like to do employee reviews. Really to check in like, hey, you said these are the goals you want to hit, personal, professional goals. What can I do to help you get those? Because it sounds like you're a little off track. Well, you know what? You're doing a really good job. I think that if you continue this way, then yeah, you're going to hit these goals. So I have a paper for, each employee of what their goals are. And we have at least one touch point every quarter.
Okay.
That's incredible. I'm getting all fired up over here because now I'm thinking about my goals. And now I'm like, what are your goals? I want to know all the things. Do you do this for yourself too, as a leader?
Yeah, I do. Honestly, last year was a blur for me. So I didn't really focus on goals for myself. My main goal was to build up this business so I don't have to be here anymore. That's really what my focus was. On top of all that, I got married last year too. So there was a lot of things that I had to and I owe that to honestly being when I was younger, my parents always had me in all these different sports. And so being involved in activities, I used to dance too. So I think that I lean on a lot of that and why I think I was able to weather the storm. I owe it to always being able to kind of multitask. Some will argue multitask is not great because you can't focus your entire time on something. But to be honest, I do owe it to that, being able to not be so overwhelmed and able to kind of manage getting married, planning the wedding, running my dad's business, doing my business, and then trying to take care of myself. I owe it to being able to prior experience of being able to manage my time and being efficient with that time. But for myself, I got some short-term goals. I got some long-term goals that I'm really excited for this year. Like I said, I think that based off of our previous year, there's no doubt we can hit these goals. Yeah.
Heck yeah. So, and did I just hear that you want to, like, your goal this year, or probably this year over the next couple of years, is to build the business to where you don't have to be there? Is that what I just heard? Yeah,
basically. Yeah.
Okay.
I got some big goals this year. I think that we actually hit the goal last year. I was shocked, to be honest, that we are now in $1 million producing premium agency. So very pumped about that. We did that in 2 years. So I got now that seeing that and the little time effort that was really spent on it, but it was, again, focusing on those little things that move the needle with that short amount of time. Now I'm like, oh my God, I got 8 hours in a day with this business. So that I can really be effective here. I'm very, very pumped and motivated for this year with these goals.
All right. So I got to ask. So, because I think there's multiple types of business owners. There's business owners that they never want to leave their business. okay, let's grow, and I see myself in the chair for the rest of my life. There's business owners like yourself that are like, I got to get the processes and systems in place. I got to get the team in place so I don't have to be here and it runs. So 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the road, you don't have to be in your business anymore. What are you doing?
Good question. I still think so. I think that it's kind of a gray area. It's a little vague when people say I don't want to be here anymore. So what I mean is like maybe in the office, right? I'm still going to be focusing on things that I think I'm really good at. And the things I think I'm really good at is I think I'm good at relating to people. And so what that means is being able to recruit top talent. And also being able to approach networking. I owe a lot of my success to being able, I learned this from my father, being able to be involved with the community and being able to network. I would say those are my two strengths. So being able to recruit people and being able to network. And that's what I want to do. I want to be able to do that and not get stuck in coding someone's auto codes, or even though that's our job, that's why we got into insurance. But I feel like being able to go out and network with people and build that relationship that's going to then, flow into this whole resource of leads coming through. I think that's what I'm really good at. And I think I owe that from my experience at Enterprise, being able to go market to your accounts, bring them that box of donuts, or being able to relate to those managers and being able to assess, realizing top talent, moving them to a different location.
I love, okay, so you're what, 2.5 years in, and I've got, I am amazed, because what I heard there is I want to focus on the things that you're good at, but that you like and that bring you joy. And there's something to be said about that. So I love that you have a plan already. Like, I'm going to do what I have to do to in the business to get it established so I can do the things that really bring me joy and that I like outside the business that still grows the business.
Right. Yeah. You hit the nail on the head there. I enjoy meeting people. I enjoy finding out what's important to them. And a lot of times that does transition into helping them with the insurance. But I think that I'm better out in the field, meeting people, talking to them, trying to see if maybe they're a good fit for, maybe they hate their job. But they have great, I would say it's weird. So some people get into this whole argument of hire people that have insurance experience. I don't like to do that. I like to hire for the intangibles. And sometimes, you see that at the gas station. You see that getting Starbucks. I want to be out in the field is really what I want to do. So I still will be involved in the business. I just don't want to be involved in the day-to-day operations because I don't think that's my strong suit. I'd rather help somebody buy a house and pay them well to build the sales. You know what I mean? I want to do what I think I'm pretty good at doing.
Amen.
Yeah, I love that. I want to, before we wrap this up, because we've had such a wonderful conversation, but you said a quote before we hit record about your mother. And it's really how you live your life. And I think that it's so impactful, and I would love for you to share that again. Yeah,
I'm a huge person that believes in don't live your life through procrastination, even though sometimes we do. But my mom always said, don't leave something you can do today for tomorrow. So I try to be proactive and live my life by that, and make sure that I can cross off my to-do list every day before I hit reset.
I think that's so good, because there's so many things, and I know we've talked about this a lot as a business owner, where it's, what do you focus on and what gets done? And you have this giant list. And I think that when you said that quote before we hit record, I was like, oh my gosh, because it really brings what's important to front, top of mind, right here. This is what I need to focus on, because tomorrow isn't promised. And I feel like there's so many great things, Aissa, that you've shared, and your experience. Starting agency in the middle of COVID, going through tons of corporate experience, and then hearing your goals. I have chills. I'm excited for you because I know where you're headed. This is exciting.
No, thank you. I'm very, very motivated. I'll be sure to send you guys an email, fill you in on how we're doing over here. But I appreciate you guys spending the time, really, like I said, not even with me, but putting it together a podcast like this is great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it. And for all of those that are listening, thank you so much. We appreciate you. If you enjoyed the episode today, if you have questions, you have comments, shoot us a text, 816-727-7610. Aissa, if someone wanted to follow you, someone wanted to connect with you, what's the easiest way for them to do that?
Yeah, they can give my cell a ring. My number is 626-224-0234. Or they can just follow me on Instagram. I like to put out a lot of, social media propaganda out there. I'm trying to stay cool with the cool kids. I don't know. I can't keep up with the reel and the post and the video. I get lost, so I'm still learning. I'm probably giving my generation, putting them to shame, but it's things are always changing over there. So trying to stay hip.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And all this will be in the show notes too. So Aissa, thank you so much again. For all those listening, as you know, time is the most valuable and important asset that we all have. We appreciate you spending time with us today. Go out and make it great.